Great Yorkshire Business on Great Yorkshire Radio.
You know, it's always great to be out and about and meet new businesses and see how they help other businesses succeed. And joining me on the line is Baz from Client Robot. How are you, Baz? All right?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very good. Really looking forward to finding out how you help businesses. But I tell you what, we all have a story. So let's share your story to how you've got to where you got to now.
Okay, so well, for me, it's I was a software developer, so I was working. I had a proper job, as it were, working for another company. I was very, very good at what I did, and my clients, the clients of the company, they absolutely loved me. There were a few things happened, and so in 2007, I thought, because the clients love me and because I'm good at what I do, I'll work for myself. I thought being good with clients would be enough, but it wasn't really enough to run a business.
So that one went a bit belly up then, yes.
Well, it's just it was. I thought I'd be okay, and it was just a massive learning curve. There was just so many things that I wasn't expecting that had to happen.
And I guess that happens with lots of businesses as well. You know, it's everything's a learning curve. So, Baz, what happened after that then?
So, I muddled through for a couple of years, and then me and some friends, we started another little business where we got some investment off someone else. We started this business. We worked together. We took quite a lot of money. In total, we ended up spending almost £500,000 of someone else's money. And the amazing learning I got from that, we got to the end of the money, and we went back to the investor and said, look, we've spent all your money, and what are we going to do? And he said, well, give the rest to charity and shut the company down. And we were like, really? Is that it? And he was like, yeah, so I invest this much in 20 companies and I only expect one of them to make a return. So this amount of money, this huge figure, that was the biggest thing I'd ever heard of, to him, it was just like a grain of sand. And so I tell that to my clients quite often, is that number, that price that you're struggling to put out there, that's actually, although it seems huge to you, to other people, it might just be the smallest number they've ever come across and think you're a bargain.
Yeah, and that's interesting, because I was just saying to some people where some time ago I did a workshop, and they were talking about how do you value things, and we were all in little groups, and we had to value in our minds, and well, with other people in the group and as well. But what value would you put on taking your partner out for a meal? Mm-hmm. What value would you put on a Victoria sponge and a hi-fi unit? Now, and the vast differences, well, they were quite great. There were some people, well, £35 my maximum. Others for a partner out with a meal, well, no, I'd spend 150, 200. The hi-fi unit was about the same, but the Victoria sponge went from 99p, right? And we found out there's an American company sells a Victoria sponge at $49. And a bit like $49. And they were putting the price up at the time. So the lesson that I learned, similar to your lesson there, is we all put different values on different things. So don't be afraid to ask.
The number is meaningless unless you put it in the context of the person who's doing the buying.
Yeah. So where did that lead you to then, Maz?
So, well, when that failed, I went back to working on my own, but I didn't want to be on my own, as it were. So I hired a team to work with me of other software developers. And in order to pay their wages, we needed to get bigger projects and get more money coming through the door. So along the way, I had to learn about sales. And that's something I never, ever thought I would ever do, because we all have this vision of like a salesperson, the bad suit and the foot in the door, never shutting up until you sign the contract kind of thing. And I was like, I don't want to be that person. So I went on a little journey, asked a load of people, some really helpful people, gave me lots of very good advice on it. I read a load of books, listened to a load of podcasts and all that kind of thing. I designed a sales process, because you need to have a process that you follow, that because it's one of those things, it's all in your head, so you need to have a process so you know where you are at every time. I got myself a CRM system, a software system, a database to keep track of all my people, and realised that it wasn't working for me. And so I sat down and had a little chat with myself, and I realised what I was actually doing was I was going out and talking to people and asking them to say yes to me. Mm-hmm. All the clients I'd had previously, I'd been working with them. I'd had long-term relationships, 3, 4, 5, 6 years working with them. And the reason for that is because we had trust and we had a relationship. So I thought, why don't I just make my sales process a way of figuring out if I'm going to trust that person, if we're going to have a relationship. So I turned it round, flipped it from trying to get people to say yes to me looking for excuses to say no to someone.
Wow.
Yeah, and so what that meant was a lot of people I said no to, so that were in my pipeline, as it were. But the ones that stayed through to the end, when I came to name a price to them, I would raise my price a little bit just to see what would happen, and they didn't even blink an eye. And part of that's because they'd already persuaded themselves. I'd been putting all these objections in their way, and they persuaded themselves that they wanted to work with me anyway. And so that taught me the lesson that actually this whole thing about sales, it's not about being a sleaze and persuading people. It's actually just about treating people correctly, having a nice conversation, and seeing if you're a good fit, if you're going to work together well. And if you do, then it's a win on both sides. There's no need for the persuasion.
Yeah, sharing that knowledge, and it's like, again, it's interesting that you talk about there, because there's a bit about, we're not going to argue with ourselves. So if you're telling somebody something, we're going to get, how dare you, resistance. Yeah. But if I tell you, I'm not going to argue with myself, am I?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's the top and bottom of it. So that sort of got you off on your journey to where you are now.
Yeah.
And now you're helping other businesses be successful. So how are you doing that?
Well, so there was a third little piece to my journey, which was when I had this software team, so a load of people working with me, I was actually losing money, but I wasn't realizing it. So each month I'd look at the numbers and I'd be like, all right, I've lost a bit there, but I'll make it up next month. It's got some more coming in or whatever. And I'd never actually made it up each month. So it was a gradual thing, but I was consistently losing money. So I knew that I had a problem, so I went onto Amazon and I looked up in the section on small business books, and I found this book called Profit First by an American guy called Mike Mikhailovich. And I read it and I thought, this is absolutely fantastic. It makes perfect sense. It's really simple. But at the beginning of the book, he had a load of rules for saying, like, do this, but don't do this, don't do this. And so I started trying to implement the Profit First system. But I ignored his rules, and it didn't work for me.
Okay.
So what I did, I carried on losing money because it wasn't working for me, and I went back to the book a little bit later, and this time I did it properly, and I followed all his rules. And it's a really, really simple system about looking after your money, looking after your cash flow. And after 3 months of doing it, I was making a profit. And after 6 months of doing it, I paid myself my first quarterly bonus, like a big company does. So that was quite amazing. It was a massive turnaround for me, and it was quite a revelation in just putting in that simple system like that.
So but when you first read the book and you went out and you did it and it didn't work for you, then was that because it seemed so simple, or you thought you knew better? Was it a bit?
Yeah, that's it. You look at it, you think why do I have to do this bit? All the rest of it's going to work anyway. I know better than him, and then I learned the lesson.
Life is full of lessons. We've all been there. So that took you to where you are now, then.
Yeah, so one of the things Mike, the author, does is he runs a program called Profit First Professionals, where you can sign up with him and you get training directly from him and his team on how to implement Profit First in other people's businesses. So that's what I'm doing. So I've come up with a 12-week plan for helping people implement this in their business. So you can go out and you can read the book and you can do it yourself, and you might succeed. It is simple, so you might succeed. But if you don't succeed, then you come to someone like me who's been there and done it and failed at it as well as done. And I can help you implement that, so it adds a bit of financial security into your business.
It's that old adage as well, isn't it? Work with somebody that's been there rather than try and reinvent the wheel on your own.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. And I guess when you're working with people, Baz, I bet sometimes you can sort of reflect in yourself, and you can maybe see them thinking, well, I could do this my way. And you're there as a bit of a coach and a mentor.
Yeah. So a big part of it is there's obviously the figuring out where you want to be, what your goals are, and what you want your business to do for you. There's the actual implementing the system. The system's really, really simple, but it's just making sure you do it and follow through. And so on top of that, then there's a weekly call where we say, right, these are the things you said you were going to do this week. Have you actually done them? And if you've not done them, you have to tell me why. And it's that holding accountability that makes a massive difference to people.
Yeah, very, very much so. And I bet on occasions they're running around just 5 minutes before the call to make sure they've done it. Else he's going to have. But
it doesn't matter as long as it gets done. If it's going to be valuable to you and you don't do it, then it's not valuable. If it's going to be valuable and you do it, then it's valuable.
Yeah. So are there any sort of simple tips you can share with us from the book?
The way the system works is really, really easy. So if you think back to probably how your grandparents did it, they would have got their pay, got paid in cash. They would have gone home and they would have put £10 into that envelope for rent and £10 into that one for heating and £10 into that one for food. And then whatever was left over, they could take to the pub, safe in spending it. Profit First is basically exactly the same system. You get your money in and then you put some aside for your tax, you put some aside for your profits, you put some aside to pay yourself because you're the most important employee in the business. And then whatever's left over, you can then spend on the business, on your marketing or whatever else it is you've got. But you're approaching it the other way around. Instead of treating the important stuff, the profit and your pay last, you're putting it first.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. And does it expand into things like helping people with cash flow and things like that, Baz, as well?
Yeah, so basically, what it ends up doing is because you've got all this money put aside, when you look at your bank balance and it's got, say, £1,000 in there, in the back of your head, you're going to think, I've got £1,000 to spend. When you follow the Profit First system, you might only have £500 in there because you've already allocated the other bits to the important stuff. So you have got £500 to spend, but you're safe to spend it. Whereas if you have that £1,000, you're not actually safe to spend it. And that's how you end up overspending and going too far and losing money, basically.
Okay. And going back to that, the bit about value, I was at a mastermind group recently, and there were a few creative people there, and I'm full of admiration for the creative people. They're very creative, and it's their words, not mine. And they said, look, we're very creative, but we're absolutely rubbish at costing a job and getting paid. So they were running around like headless chickens, finishing jobs off because they think if I don't finish this section off, I'm not going to get paid for the first section. Then they weren't great at invoicing. They were forgetting to do it. And then when they'd invoiced, they were apologising for chasing the debt.
Absolutely. That's a description of many years of my life.
It's interesting, So again, does that come into it? Because that's all about being profitable.
Absolutely, and there's some really, really simple. So the thing about being afraid to invoice, that's a mindset thing. It's about understanding the value of what you do, the difference you're making in other people's lives, because that's worth something. And if you understand that, then you don't mind charging for it. There's really, really simple little steps that you can take that make such a massive difference in how you run your business and then ultimately in how profitable your business is, and beyond that then how your business affects your life. So one of my clients, for example, going back to the sales and the CRM stuff, he wanted a CRM system. He didn't really know why he wanted it, but so I sat down with him, we discussed how his business works, and he had two halves to his business. One half was like an online retail store, so people could go on there and then order the stuff and buy it straight away. And then the other half was a commercial one, so he was selling the same products, but instead of buying one or two, people would buy 100. And so that wasn't done online. That would be, he'd get a phone call, they'd ask him for some samples so that they could match it to their other business to make sure it all worked okay. And then he'd forget about it. And if the order came in, the order came in. So what I did was, when we were setting up his CRM, so it's just basically a database of all his inquiries and customers and so on. But when he put in a new request for a sample, it would then send him a reminder 3 days later to give him a call back. And just that simple act of following up with a potential client netted him £30,000 in extra sales in 5 weeks.
Wow, massive value.
A massive value, and such a simple thing. It's not difficult to do. It's just a matter of doing it.
Yeah, well, the key bit is the expertise that people bring to other businesses. That they've got that expertise in that sector, whereas another business hasn't. And it's simple to maybe people like yourself doing what you're doing, but if you don't do it, it's not simple, so that's where the value comes in.
Absolutely.
I mean, I was talking to a LinkedIn specialist recently, and it was like amazing. You know, I thought I was pretty good, and then I realised I need to start all over again. But, well, not quite, but you know what I mean. And you know, when you talk about the value there, and you talked about working with clients and really saying no, part of that process must be then when you're talking to them is like picking up whether they're really seeing the value in what you can offer.
Absolutely. So a big part of it, especially when it's the sort of thing that I do, which is very relationship based and about having this trust and this communication between us. If we don't get on, if we don't trust each other, if we don't see the value in each other, if we don't think we can improve each other's lives in some way, then it's not worth us working together. So I have a little questionnaire that I run. I have a questionnaire for my clients so I can find out about them. I have an internal questionnaire that I run through when I meet someone and they want to work with me. I ask myself these 5 questions, and if they don't get satisfactory answers, then I won't work with you. I'll pass you on, refer you to someone else who can probably help you better. And the reason for that is because all this stuff matters. It's that relationship and that trust, and the fact that if I don't think I can help you, then there's no point me taking your money or whatever, because it's going to leave me feeling bad and you feeling cheated.
Yeah, and I guess as well, when some people are starting up, they're tempted to chase everything, aren't they?
Yeah,
because I've got nothing in the pot, so I'm going to chase everything. And I, you know, from what you're describing, and I know some of the things I've gone through in my life when I've done that, you go, I wish I'd never chased this pot.
And I mean, it's not to say I'm perfect at it. I've just had a client which I knew I should have said no to. I didn't say no, and it's not worked out very well. So,
yeah. But as I say, every day's a learning curve. Every day's a learning curve. So, look, if people want to find out more about you and how you can help them, how can they get in touch?
So the easiest way is to go to my website, which is clientrobot.com. On the homepage there's a massive big button saying get the book. Because I'm a Profit First Professional, I'm allowed to give away extracts of the book. So you can download the book for free. It will email you the contents of the book. You can read it at your own time, completely free of charge, or you can go to Amazon and buy it properly if you prefer. But if you get it off me, then I will email you as well some tips on implementing it and so on. And then through there, you can then get in touch with me directly if you want any more help with it. Right.
Okay. So just give us that website again.
It's clientrobot.com.
Okay. And before we close, I've got to ask you this because I'm picking this up. You seem to be quite an avid reader.
Yeah.
Yes. And you've talked about that book. You know, are there any other books that they've helped you in your business life?
The single most important book I think I've ever read regarding business is The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber, which is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, that is on my shelf too. Yes.
Yeah.
the revised edition, I think I've got as well.
Yeah.
Baz, it's been a pleasure talking to you today. Whatever you're doing for the rest of the day, have a good one.
Thank you very much.
Great Yorkshire Business on Great Yorkshire Radio.